Hola everypony, mi llamo es Serena Earthpony and welcome to another reading of The Family I Never Had. Last time we left off, Zim made a decision to stay on Earth with Christine and Dib. Will the tallest approve? Let's find out. Chapter 10. Abducted. When school ended, Zim was happy to see that Christine was able to pick him up today. There she waited in the Cadillac in front of the school. "Looks like she's here," he said to Dib. "I'll see you later, Dib." "Bye, Zim," Dib called back. Zim smiled and ran up to the car. He opened the passenger side and got in. "Hey, sweetie," Christine greeted. "Who was that?" "Oh, that's just my best friend Dib Membrane," Zim answered. "Dib Membrane?" Christine gasped. "He wouldn't have to be the son of Professor Membrane, now would he?" Yeah, he is, actually," Zim blushed, suddenly afraid of what she might think of his new friend. "He's not crazy, you know." "I never said that he was," Christine frowned. "What makes you think that I would say that about him?" "Well, because," Zim hesitated, "because everybody who knows about Dib considers him to be crazy because he believes in paranormal entities, like ghosts, werewolves, aliens." "Oh, well then," Christine smiled. "He seems like a lovely young man. I would love to meet him sometime." "Of course," Zim smiled. The rest of the ride home was just Christine asking how school went and Zim telling her about what they did. When they finally reached home, Zim knew that the time had come. Hey, Christine," he started as they exited the vehicle. "Yes, Zim," Christine answered back. "Can we sit down for a sec?" "Oh, sure, honey. Is everything all right?" Christine asked with concern as the two sat down at the end of the dock. "Well, you know how you told me that you're a wolf blood?" Zim asked. "Oh dear, don't tell me you've already told someone else," Christine frowned. No, it's not anything like that," Zim assured. "It's about me, actually." Christine blinked, waiting for her son to go on. "You see, I know you're not normal. You're a wolf blood," Zim sighed. "Well, I'm not exactly normal either." "What do you mean, honey?" "Christine, I'm an alien." But before Zim could get the words out, the ground suddenly began to shake. The earth shook so violently that the leaves started to fall from the trees, and the pond started to splash about. "Ah!" Zim screamed in pain as some of the water splashed onto his arm. "Zim!" Christine gasped when she saw the acid-like effect that the contaminated pond water had on him. "Quick! Get away from the pond!" Quickly, Zim and Christine stood up and ran off the dock, towards the house. "Wee-hoo! Earthquake!" Gert cried insanely, Minnie Moose looking terrified next to him. "Everybody get down to the basement!" Christine ordered. "That won't be necessary," a loud voice suddenly boomed through the air. "Oh no," Zim gasped as he looked up. Christine frowned and looked up as well, gasping at what her psychic senses. There, hovering above the house, was the Massive. Suddenly, a tractor beam was shot at them, and they struggled as it started pulling them towards the marooned ship. "Let us go!" Zim growled as they were suddenly grabbed by Irken guards. "Zim? What's going on?" Christine gasped as she stared at the aliens surrounding them. "Oh, nothing really unusual," a voice suddenly spoke next to them. They turned their heads and gasped when they saw the tallest, glaring at them with hate so powerful it actually frightened them. "You're just being abducted, is all," Purple smirked. "Knock them and cuff them," Red ordered the guards. The guards nodded before they suddenly pressed cloths covered in chloroform against their prisoners' faces. "No! Zim!" Christine was able to muffle through the cloth before completely passing out. "No!" Zim muffled as well, just barely getting half of his next word out before he too passed out. Back on Earth, Dib had also felt the ground shaking. He was curious as to why, because they haven't had an earthquake for quite a long time now. A beam of light up ahead caused him to look up, and he gasped at what he saw. The Massive, which was pulling up Zim, Christine, Gur, and Minnie Moose. "Oh no!" Dib gasped before running out of the house. "I'll be back later, Gaz." "Whatever," Gaz sneered without looking up from her game slave. Dib ran as fast as he could, but by the time he finally ran up to the Vandermelon driveway, the ship had took off, taking its prisoners with it. "No!" he shouted. "No, no, no!" They had come, the tallest, and they were taking the Vandermelon family as Zim's punishment. At least, that's what he thought. Why else would they take them? "What do I do now?" Dib sighed, as he sat sadly on the dock, his head in his hands. Suddenly, he had an idea. Zim's boot cruiser. He could use that to catch up with the Massive and help save Zim and Christine. "Yes!" he shouted, jumping up with joy. "It's the perfect plan!" It really was the perfect plan. Now, he just had to make it past the house security, if it was still up. Zim groaned as he woke up, slowly sitting up as he rubbed his aching head. What had happened? He couldn't remember anything. He looked at his hands and gasped when he saw the chains around them, holding him to the floor. Then, everything flashed through his mind in a blur. His final decision, the message, about to tell Christine what he is, the earth shaking, the Massive, the tractor beam, the tallest, the chloroform. And now finally, trapped in a cell with no sight of Christine anywhere. Zim growled and stood up, walking to the end of his chains to the bars. "Hey!" he shouted. "What is the meaning of this? Release me at once!" "Quiet, you traitorous scum!" A guard suddenly appeared to Zim's left and stabbed him with his stun rod. Zim cried out in pain, collapsing to the floor in his knees. He hissed and looked back up at the guard. "Traitor!" he hissed. "What on earth are you talking about?" "You should know. You're the one who sent the message," another voice came down from the hall. Zim looked down the hall and growled when he saw red and purple approaching his cell. "It's funny, because you weren't even supposed to be on Earth," Red chuckled. "It was all a lie, Zim. You never were an invader. So, if I was basically banished to Earth, then why didn't you just leave me and my family alone?" Zim spat, not bothered about his mission being fake. "Because you threatened us," Red glared, the shadow of the room making his eyes glow. "And now we're going to make you pay." "Where is Christine?" Zim hissed dangerously. "Oh, she's just being worked on in the science lab," Purple laughed. "You were right, Zim. Humans are quite interesting creatures. Did you know that they have an anatomy that's perfect for producing Erkin's meats?" Zim gasped at this. "No, they wouldn't. They couldn't. Don't you dare touch her, you worthless piece of robotic junk!" he screamed. "Oh," Red smiled deviously as he used a claw to lift Zim's head up to him so that they were both looking at each other in the eyes. "But it's already begun." Chapter 11. Vandermelon Stick Together. A single half hour had gone by since the tallest left Zim alone with a single Erkin guard to watch him. During this hour, Zim had been thinking about a means of escaping. If he were to escape, he would first have to find Christine and free her. Then they would have to fight their way through the control room, where he would set the Massive to self-destruct. Then they would have to escape in one of the guard's boot cruisers and fly away in time to be far away from the explosion of the ship. Gur and Minimoose would be fine, as it seemed that the tallest hadn't even bothered to keep them on the ship anyway, leaving them on Earth. It was the perfect plan. Now he just had to free himself to put it into action. Zim moved to the back of his cell, collecting the chains and keeping them close to himself. He reached his hands over his head and down into his pack. Luckily, the tallest were stupid enough to forget about a pack check on him, for he still had everything. After quietly searching through his pack, he finally found what it was he was looking for, his box of paper clips. He set the box down and opened it. He took one paper clip out, and after bending it straight, he stuck the end into the keyhole of his chains, hoping to pick the lock. It was only a few seconds before the Erkin finally heard a satisfying click, which allowed the chains to fall off from his wrists. Nodding in satisfaction, Zim picked up the box and put it back in his pack, saving it for later use if need be. Now he just needed to get out of the cell without being caught. He pulled out his next two items, the laser pen and Scotch tape. Using the tape, he taped the button to the pen down, preventing it from ever turning off unless he took the tape off. Then he taped the pen to the wall, sending the red light far down the other end of the hall. The wiggling of the red dot caught the attention of the guard, making him go investigate. This was the chance Zim was waiting for. Quick as he could, he used his paperclip to pick the lock on his cell and quietly opened the door. Fortunately, the moronic guard had left his stun rod behind, which Zim picked up and quietly snuck behind the single guard. He brought up his newfound weapon and violently stabbed the guard with the rod, sending shockwaves throughout his whole body. It was enough voltage to actually put the Urkin unconscious. It was now time for Phase 2 of the plan. Zim grabbed the guard and dragged him back over to the cell, where he collected his laser pen and continued with Phase 2. After taking the guard's uniform and putting it on top of his own, Zim used the tape to secure the Urkin's hands and feet and then taped his mouth shut. He packed up all of his stuff, grabbed the stun rod, and began marching towards the science lab, where Christine was being tested on. It didn't take Zim long to find the science lab. What with Christine's screams of pain, he swore that when he found the lab, he would kill whoever was testing on her. When he turned into the lab, he gasped in horror. There were 3 Urkin scientists surrounded by needles, scalpels, and even tubes of Urkin DNA. They were all surrounding Christine, who is currently tied down onto a metal table, her jeans pulled down her pelvis. "Get your slimy scaly paws off me, you freaks!" she growled, as one of the scientists gently rubbed her pelvis. Zim had to admit the insult kinda hurt, even if it wasn't directed towards him. If this is what she thought of Urkins now, what would she think when he finally tells her the truth? Zim shook his head clear of that thought. She will love him no matter what species he was, just like he still loves her. "I'm warning you," Christine continued to growl. "You do not want to mess with me when I'm angry." Zim knew exactly what she was referring to. He could already see her eyes turning gold and her veins turning black. Suddenly, she stopped struggling and sniffed the air. Zim was confused about this until she turned her head to his direction. "Zim?" she silently whispered. "Shh," he whispered back. Quiet as a mouse, Zim creeped up behind the 3 unsuspecting scientists, who were currently studying Christine's DNA, and, with one swift, used the stun rod to slice the packs off of them, depacking them instantly, causing the cords to rip out as well, killing them on impact. "Oh, Zim!" Christine cried happily as he untied her and helped her stand up. "Christine!" Zim cried as well as the 2 shared a hug. "I thought I'd never see you again." "What are you doing here, sweetie?" Christine demanded when they finally stopped hugging. "You should have left the moment you were able to escape." "Not a chance, Christine." Zim shook his head. "Venomons stick together, remember?" "Yes, Zim," Christine smiled. "Yes, they do." Zim smiled before he took her hand, pulling her out of the lab. "Come on, I have a plan." Chapter 12. Venomons are honest. As Zim and Christine made their way to the control room, they passed many other Urkin guards. It was a good thing Zim had taken his guard's uniform and weapon, because to the guards he just looked like another Urkin guard, transporting the human prisoner. "Where are you taking us, Zim?" Christine asked him quietly. "To the control room," Zim answered. "We're going to blow this place to pieces." "But what about us?" Christine gasped. "We'll still be on the ship." "No, we won't," Zim shook his head, "because once I've set up the timer, we're going to escape to one of the smaller ships. We'll be too far away for the blast to harm us." "You can't possibly know how to set a self-destruct timer and fly an alien ship. You're only 12. "Trust me, Christine, I do know how." "How?" Christine demanded. "How is it that you know so much about this kind of stuff?" "Because," Zim started, then sighed sadly. "Because I was trained to know this stuff." "Trained?" Christine frowned. "What do you mean, trained?" "Christine," Zim sighed, This may be a bad time to discuss this now, but do you remember when we were sitting on the dock at home? I said I wasn't normal? Yes, Christine nodded. And then we were abducted. That's the thing, Zim sighed. I don't think you can be abducted by your own kind. What do you mean? Christine frowned. Zim, what are you trying to say? Christine, turn around. Christine did as he said and turned around to face her son. She gasped at what she saw when she looked at him. Zim had taken off his wig and contacts, letting his antennae bounce freely and his buggy red eyes gleam in the shadows. I'm not a human. I'm an alien, an Urkin, like our enemies right now, he explained to the shocked human. You mean these are your people who captured us? Your people that you killed? Your people that we're trying to avoid and destroy? Christine gasped. Yes. Christine didn't know what to say. All this time, the child she had adopted was an alien. How could her psychic abilities not pick that up? Perhaps they really were her eyes, and all she was seeing was a sickly green special needs child. I wanted to tell you sooner, Zim admitted, but I was so afraid that you wouldn't want me anymore. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me before. But then you showed me what you were, and I knew that I could finally tell you. Venomons are honest. That's the second motto, right, Christine? Yes, Zim, Christine smiled, tears running down her face. Yes, it is, honey. I'm so glad that you finally told me. Zim smiled too, tears streaming down his own face as they shared another hug. I'm so glad that I told you too, he whispered through his tears. Well, 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 isn't this a nice sight? Who caught our heroes in the act? Find out in the next episode of The Family I Never Had.